This Move Up segment is sponsored by Inlanta Mortgage. Are you thinking about buying a home and wondering how you'll pay for it? Have you built up a good, strong credit record that'll allow for the purchase? Jonathan Arnold is here from Inlanta Mortgage with some advice to walk us through the unknown abyss of credit. That's a scare. Why do you call it that?
Well, because it is a lot of times an unknown to people, and you know it can be a scary thing, right? Like I had a client the other day that was super reluctant to kind of dig into it, and it was just because she didn't know.
Yeah.
So it's a fear of the unknown.
We hear so much talk about the credit score. How important is the credit score?
Well, it's what we use to determine what somebody qualifies for. So it is a critical thing. It definitely is important in the process.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the process, because you have quite a process that you go through to help people walk through and remove some of the fear and unknown that exists.
We like to call our process the smart mortgage consultation, and absolutely, we dig in incredibly deep, and we spend a lot of time not only on kind of the fundamentals, but vast majority of that time is spent on strategic thinking as well.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, you know, this process of getting qualified for something is fundamental. You know, do you have the income? Do you have the credit? Do you have the asset for the down payment?
Yes.
But how those things apply to the market and the actual process of purchasing a home can be done in a multitude of ways. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of our questions and a lot of our thinking is scenarios of, if this scenario, if you find this kind of house, mm-hmm. then this type of mortgage might make sense. And so a lot of it is strategic and specific to what people are actually looking at.
Yeah, and you're there to walk them through the process and make all those decisions.
Absolutely.
A lot of people present in your office, I know, having looked at things like Credit Karma or some of these easy access, check my credit type of things, and that may not be the best approach.
Yeah, it's one of those things that Credit Karma and a lot of the credit cards now today are offering your credit score to you.
Yes.
And so that is what we call the consumer-facing side of credit. However, as it relates to mortgages, the mortgage-facing side is a different model. So the scores are fundamentally different. And so sometimes on the consumer-facing side, you might see scores that are higher than your mortgage score. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the opposite. So we always encourage people to get the actual facts so that you know where you stand.
All right, important to have that information. Let's talk timing. Should I be coming to see you at the very beginning of the home search process, or when I'm honing in on a choice and my credit may be at its perkiest?
Information is power. So the more that you know, the sooner you know it, the better choices you're going to be able to make, fundamentally. And so we are huge advocates of pre-planning. And so even if you think you might be a year out, starting now could give you some strategic advantages. You know, maybe it's that some of your credit card balances are on the higher end of the limits. And so perhaps our homework to you would be working on bringing those balances down. Maybe it's that we'd like to see a couple more accounts open mm-hmm. to help
bolster your story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it just, it's a variable depending on what your scenario is, but I'm a huge advocate in finding out exactly where things stand as soon as you can so that you can actually start working to improve it or maximize your buying power.
Yeah. Well, it's an exciting time, but a time that's filled with a good bit of fear and maybe a lack of understanding on how it all works.
Well, and speaking to that timing thing, in West Michigan, over the last couple of years, have seen double-digit appreciation numbers, right? So
yeah.
If you owned a house for $200,000 and you bought it last year, there's a high likelihood that that house could be worth $220,000 this year.
Yeah.
So you ask the timing question, and when is the right time? Well, in a lot of circumstances, waiting can actually cost you money because you lose out on that potential appreciation.
Yes.
And on the flip side of that, the house that you may have bought a year ago is now more expensive.
Yeah, right. Yes. Okay. Well, if you want someone to walk you through all the intricacies of buying or selling a home, you can learn more about Inlanta Mortgage on their website. We've put a link to it on ours at 13onyourside.com. Good to have you here.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure.